we're seeing rampant crime in our own streets, coast to coast. You saw what happened in the New York City subway this week. Unfortunately, the response from officials wasn't to keep criminals behind bars, but rather to pat themselves on the back.
My fellow New Yorkers, we got him. We got him. It said to New Yorkers, we're going to protect the people of this city. Thank you, Commissioner, for your leadership and job well done.
I want to commend all of the investigators and analysts who took part in this all-hands-on-deck investigation.
Can't speak highly enough of the partners we had.
The quick response is truly a bright spot here.
Bear in mind, the criminal turned himself in. He called Crime Stoppers on himself. In Los Angeles, more than a dozen street gangs have been descending on wealthy areas, following residents to their homes and robbing them. And it isn't just in our biggest cities. Last weekend in my hometown of New Orleans, a city of under 400,000 people, 18 shootings were reported in a 72-hour period. And with a Soros-backed DA, these criminals are at large or back on the street in no time. In Philadelphia, over the course of 24 hours, yesterday and today, at least 24 people were shot. 5 were killed. And in Chicago, a father was gunned down while driving his 3 children, ages 3, 6, and 8. The bloodshed continues, but the solutions are obvious. Funding and empowering law enforcement and hard prosecution on the back end. Here now is one man witnessing the crime on the streets and another trying to stop it in the courtroom. Joining me now, John Catanzara, president of the Chicago Fraternal Order of Police, and Nate Hochman. He's a candidate for Chicago Attorney General. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. John, first to you. When Chicago police announced that 57% of carjacking suspects are juveniles, Mayor Lori Lightfoot said it was because many young people feel unloved. She also said Chicago cannot arrest ourselves out of public safety problems. John, your reaction to the mayor and her coddling of these criminals?
Well, she clearly, first of all, good evening. Happy Easter. Thanks for having me. She has no idea what she's doing. The reality is, yes, you cannot just solely arrest your way out of this, but that has to be the first step. These criminals need to be taken off the street. And we're talking about these teenagers who don't feel loved. That is a byproduct of a failed school system. The Chicago public teachers, for the majority, there's some good ones, but the majority of them just don't care. It's a paycheck to them. You know, they have these kids from broken homes 8 hours a day. What are they doing to change their lives other than indoctrinating them with the information that they want to plant in their brain? Nothing. And this is the result.
Nathan, Soros-backed DA George Gascon in Los Angeles said this about criminals yesterday. Listen.
We become very judgmental about sometimes people that may make a mistake. Think how many of us would want to be judged for the rest of our life for a mistake or one of our worst decisions that we made at one point. We know that we all make mistakes, sometimes mistakes that are very serious that we should be held accountable for.
Yeah, this isn't leaving the refrigerator door open in the company kitchen. These are major crimes. Nathan, if you get into office, what will you do, what can you do about these radical DAs across California who just give these criminals a pass?
So thank you, Raymond, for inviting me onto the show. If I get into office as the California Attorney General, which is the office I'm running for, I would be the chief law enforcement officer of the entire state, which means I could come into any one of the 58 district attorneys' offices, and if they're not doing their jobs, I could bring the California Attorney General lawyers in and do the job for them. So if, for instance, if they don't want to file certain enhancements, gang enhancements, gun enhancements, when gangs and guns are involved, the California Attorney General's office can come right in and do those prosecutions for them.
Sheriff Villanueva often complains in L.A. that those enhancements are never added to the crimes, even when you're dealing with attacks on officers, killing of officers, and gang-related violence. It's really criminal. The actions of the DA are criminal as well. John, Kim Foxx, your Soros-backed DA in Chicago, she dropped 30% of the felony defendants during her first 3 years. What do your fellow officers think about that? And what impact does that have on men on the street, the officers on the beat?
It demoralizes them even more. And it was over 50% of felony drug cases also. Let's keep that in mind, which is the source of most of the employment for these gangs across the city, which is why 6 months ago I said I was running for mayor, because one of the things I think this city needs to do is start its own city jail and keep these gun offenders specifically in a city jail for 6 to 9 months and circumvent Kim Foxx's lack of doing anything, including her job.
Yeah, these DAs are so out of control. Nate, I've got to bring this to you. This is in my home city here of New Orleans. We had a situation where, according to the Metropolitan Crime Commission's latest report, in 2021, our DA Williams rejected 46% of violent felony arrests for such criminal acts as murder, rape, kidnapping, carjacking. We had a woman the other day. She was literally pistol whipped and her Mercedes taken away. We see what happens when these crimes are not enforced, when you don't prosecute properly. It empowers these criminals. And, of course, you're living proof of that in California.
Oh, absolutely. Your DA sounds like our DA, George Gascon. And he's adopted a policy of crimes without consequences, which is just completely wrong. It creates a spiral of lawlessness where one person walks out of a CVS stealing just under $950, and then it's 2 people out of a Walgreens, 80 people out of Nordstrom's. Then you get smash and grab robberies, train robberies, and now 17 independent gangs have been identified by the Los Angeles Police Department engaged in follow-on home robberies, where they're basically following people home from restaurants, bars, nightclubs, hotels, and stealing tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars of watches, jewelry, purses, and property from them, using guns, and knowing that if they do get arrested, there's a revolving door, so they'll get arrested in the morning and be out by nightfall.
John and Nate, I have 20 seconds. I want to give each of you a crack at this, starting with John. What do you think's motivating Soros and the people supporting these negligent and laissez-faire DAs? What do they want?
I couldn't even begin to imagine. I mean, government control comes from lawlessness because all of a sudden people turn to them for the answer. So unless it's a goal to socialism because of lawlessness, I can't imagine any other reasoning.
Nate, what is it? What's driving them?
You know what? They're running a social experiment at all of our peril. It's an idea that somehow if you actually weaken the laws and weaken the prosecutors, we're going to get more safety and security. And what the statistics don't lie about is that we've gotten less safety and security over the last 4 years.
John and Nate, I thank you for your insights.